Welcome to ArtX Lagos 2020 for those of you who are yet to join us this year. My name is Tayo Ogunbiyi, and I am head of curatorial here at ArtX Collective. Unfortunately, the moderator, Jade Oshiberu, is not able to join us due to unforeseen circumstances. So I'll be moderating today's conversation, and we're so thrilled to have Opal Tometi, Falz, and Mr. Lemi Ghariokwu with us today. I really look forward to having this conversation with all of you about how you use your respective mediums and platforms to tell stories of injustice that really span the globe. So, Opal, I'd love to start with you and hear about your involvement in co-founding Black Lives Matter, especially in light of the accolade awarded to Black Lives Matter yesterday by the Art Review, and putting Black Lives Matter as #1 on its power list, which is one of the most respected lists within the visual arts sector. Oh, you're on mute.
Apologies. It's really good to be with you. First of all, this is important. This is a powerful convening and really an important convening. And it's amazing to see what we can do with technology and bringing together really diverse voices, really pivotal and critical voices for such a time as this. So thank you first and foremost for inviting me to be here and to share with the crew today. It's morning my time, evening yours, I believe. Yeah, but just to share a little bit about, co-founding Black Lives Matter, honestly, it was about 7 years ago when we started Black Lives Matter. And as a Nigerian-American, daughter of Nigerian immigrants in Arizona, I really came of age experiencing a great deal of both, anti-Black racism, in addition to compounded challenges around, the immigration system in the US. And so it wasn't lost on me that there needed to be some change, and that the kind of pride and joy and love that my own Nigerian immigrant community instilled in me from a very young age in Arizona meant that I had a lot of love, I had a lot of passion for our people, a lot of kind of groundedness in who we are. And so I felt very righteous in being like a young advocate. I started my activism, rather young in like my high school days. And I had a really diverse set of friends from, Jordan to Sri Lanka to Germany. And I just was always gravitating towards people who were considered quote unquote like other in the US, but really felt like we were central, and I didn't really think much of it. It was just, who my people were. And then having that Nigerian community where on the weekends, having naming ceremonies, traditional weddings, the way that we party and gather and fellowship and eat and dress, it was just my experience. So, fast forward some years and to see the type of, violence and brutality against my people, Black people, and being, although, my Nigerian roots, but you see me, I'm Black, right? So no one's asking me about where are your people from, where is this, where is that, they see your skin color. And, I got to see the ways in which my aunties were passed over for job promotions left and right. I saw the ways in which my dad was being racially profiled for driving, quote unquote, driving while Black by police. And so it's very much so my own kind of personal familial community experience that really led me to have a voice around, not even led me to have a voice, but gave me the courage to speak up around injustice from somewhat of an early age. So I got involved doing a lot of work around domestic violence, immigrant rights, just a range of issues, education, justice, and then really, with the co-creation of Black Lives Matter back in 2013, that was a result of just seeing the ways in which, well, first and foremost, it was first because of Trayvon Martin being killed by George Zimmerman, which I think many people around the world heard about that story. A young 17-year-old boy who was, essentially stalked and killed in his own community in Florida by a white supremacist. And this white supremacist got off. Like, he was not found guilty. He was acquitted for the murder, even though we knew he did that murder. And so for me, it was important because I have two younger brothers. My youngest brother at the time was 14 years old. Trayvon Martin, who was killed, was 17-year-old. And so it felt very personal. Like, my family, my loved ones, my cousins, my people that I care about would be hearing of this story of this young man who was killed only for the color of his skin. And then you would hear that his killer was found not guilty, essentially. And I knew that something had to be done. So I looked to social media, just founders, that essentially read as a love note. Alicia Garza put it out, and it said, Black people, I love us, our lives matter. And Patrice wrote hashtag Black Lives Matter in the Facebook comments. And mind you, in those days, we didn't really do much of that in Facebook, but I saw it after having just watched a film called Fruitvale Station, which was a story of Oscar Grant, a young Black man, once again, killed by police in Oakland. I just watched that film. I got outside, saw that George Zimmerman was acquitted. Later on that evening, saw the Facebook post from Alicia, and then called her the next day and said, don't know what this is, but we got to do something. And we're community organizers, so let's rise to the occasion and let's invite people to activism, right? To organized and strategic activism, because enough is enough. We've heard of these types of stories for generations, ever since we were brought to this land, and it's just too much, right? And so we had an enough is enough moment and decided to build out Black Lives Matter. I went, bought blacklivesmatter.com. I started our social media. I called and emailed a bunch of our organizer friends across the country and said, hey, we're gonna start using this as our umbrella kind of language and platform, and let's invite people into this important tradition of grassroots organizing that we know so many of our ancestors really built and passed on so many important lessons. And I want us to be reminded that we don't have to take the injustice, and that we can find it within ourselves to rise up. And using social media was so critical in that, because we can then share these messages widely and not rely on traditional media. Traditional media is fine and great, and it's great to get some of these, notes and letter, if it's awards or op-eds and all of that. But real people communicating with real people, especially as their voices have been marginalized in the media, is so important. And so we affirmed ourselves, first and foremost. And I think that is what I want to kind of remind folks. Like, we can do something. There's something really powerful about us using our voices, us using our platforms to affirm ourselves. And then, yes, we can invite allies and other people into it, and they should step up and work alongside us. But Black Lives Matter was first and foremost about us reminding each other that our lives matter, despite what the society says. We know who we are. We know, we know that we have human rights. We know we have dignity that is inherent in who we are, and we have the right to protest, to raise our voices, and so on. So that's a little bit about the, the background. I can get into more, but I see our guests here, the other panelists, so I don't want to take up too much time talking about that, but I really appreciate that question.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Opal. Falz, I'd love to move on to you and hear from you how you use your platform as a musician, as an individual trained in law, to put your messages out there around injustice and so many other things. Also as an actor, I should mention that as well. Up, you're on mute, Falz, we can't hear you.
Sorry, my bad. I was trying to avoid obstructing when Opal was talking. Sorry, my bad. For me, it's only natural. I feel like as an artist, the way that I write, it's naturally inspired by what goes on around me, and living in this sort of environment, and living in this sort of setting that Nigeria is you know, I can't really exist in this sort of space without speaking about what's going on, you know. And a lot of artists shy away from it. A lot of people run away from it because, I mean, in fairness to them, you know, you can't really blame them, because a lot of people look at, you know, making music or sort of writing lyrics about politically related topics as maybe something that might get them in trouble, or, you know, might not really fetch them the sort of change that they're looking for, change in, you know, I mean, money, you know. So for that reason, a lot of people shy away from it. But for me, it's, you know, it's, I have to talk about it. I can't really exist, you know, in this sort of space and see everything that's going on and not put it in my music. So it just sort of comes natural. And you know, with everything that's been happening lately, you know, I even long before now, you know, I've been making music that's conscious. I've been trying to awaken the consciousness of my people. And coincidentally, last year January, I put out an album, which probably till date is my proudest body of work. It's titled Moral Instruction, and it just sort of plays on this subject that we used to be taught in schools when we were a lot younger, you know, named Moral Instruction as well. You know, so it was, for me, the concept of the project was a re-education, an awakening. You know, we have to unlearn and relearn some things. You know, we have to learn new things. We have to throw away, you know, the sort of methods of reasoning that we've sort of picked up over time. And just seeing everything come back to relevance, you know, this period was it was just so crazy, because it's, I mean, I made this project over a year ago, but it's, everything is re-unfolding, you know. So it just sort of points back to the importance of that re-education that I was talking about, you know, on that project. And, you know, for me, that this is why I'll never stop, you know, making that sort of conscious music, as I call it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Falz. I would like to invite both of you to speak to heritage as an inspiration a bit more. You know, Opal, I see you have a beautiful piece by Mama Nike Davies Okunde, who's one of our exhibitors and also one of our featured artists this year. And Falz, you know, the album that you referenced, Moral Instruction, the cover was done by Lemi, who was to be part of this conversation today. So I would love if you could speak about historical precedents with respect to the work that you do a bit more. And I guess I'll start with Falz, and maybe your song Follow.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Follow was off the Moral Instruction project. I mean, art is a big inspiration. You know, when I was working on the Moral Instruction project, you know, I couldn't think of anyone else. You know, I couldn't think of anyone better to design the cover art than, of course, the legendary Lemi Ghariokwu. You know, he, of course, as we know, designed so many works for the legendary, the iconic Fela Kuti while he was alive and very active. You know, so I knew that because of how vivid his works were and how powerful, how, you know, just raw, you know, his style was, I knew that was what I wanted, because the message in my music, the message in that body of work was just as raw, just as, you know, in your face as I needed it to be. So, you know, there was no way I wasn't going to reach out to him. So I did. And, you know, I'm so excited that we linked up, because when we met, he said something to me. He said he felt that it was a divine connection. You know, he felt that it was spiritual. You know, he didn't really believe in coincidences. And that really touched me. That really touched me, because I feel like, as an artist, my purpose is pretty much, you know, along these lines. I feel like as an artist, I have a big role in terms of reshaping mentality, reshaping culture, you know, and that just, you know, really, really resonated with me. And that was why I sent him that message. As soon as everything started to unfold, I was like, sir, the revolution has started. Because, you know, everything that we spoke about, just the need to awaken the consciousness of the people, just the need for everyone to be more conscious. That was what I started to see, you know, during these EndSARS protests, and everyone was coming out. Everyone was complaining. Everyone was out on the streets. You know, it really sent a lot of chills down my spine. You know, just seeing everything unfold. It was nice. Yeah.
And Opal, did you have a bit to add with respect to heritage and ancestry? I mean, you talked about how we can protest because of what our ancestors have done in the past, but I'd love to hear a bit more from you on that too.
Yeah. Well, culture is everything. Heritage is everything. Having a pride in who you are and your people and the legacy and the sacrifice of our elders and, you know, some of my mentors, it to me is everything, and it's the core of what gives me strength, what gives me joy, what gives me really a sense of purpose and belonging. And I was so glad you pointed out the art. I didn't even actually remember that I was sitting right here. And this was not set up. This is my desk and my computer is here. And I love Auntie, and every time I'm in Nigeria, I always go to her shop, and I'm a patron of
I love that. I love that piece of work, by the way. I love it.
Right? It's right.
Yeah. Coincidentally, the gallery, the Nikkei Art Gallery is literally down the road from my house. So I'm there like all the time. I love the place. Yeah.
And it gives us so much life. And I appreciate people who curate and share and allow us to celebrate us just for our sheer beauty and not for any kind of anything, but just like, no, look at us. And there's something so important, I think, about the role of arts in our society, the role that it plays in terms of reminding us of our ability to create something that is in our imagination, that's in our heart, our ability to kind of materialize it. There's something just so profound about that. And the role of art and activism is like this. It's lockstep. I don't see one happening really without the other. I consider myself a creator or creative, although I'm not like a fine artist, right? I've played music in the past or done other things, but it's not I'm not like Falz. I'm not like but I work with other kinds of media, right? And if words and writing a speech or writing the poetry or the wording for a video, or working with illustrators on projects, I'm working on with other kinds of means. I think those are also part of what I consider to be kind of artistic or creative expression. And I've said this before, but I believe it to my core. We are made in the image of the creator, right? And so we all are creators. We have that endowment, that gifting within us. And so much of what we're doing as activists, as artists, is kind of unlocking that, right? And reminding us, talking about like that consciousness, reminding ourselves like, hey, another way is possible. Some other kind of means is possible. And why are we kind of beholden to these very narrow confines of the status quo? Like, let's get out of the status quo. Let's brush that off. Let's try something new. And I feel like art gives us that reflection of who we are or who we can be.
And just to add to that.
Come on.
Heritage, how important heritage is, and what Mama Nika is doing, for example, as you pointed out, what she's doing is sort of bringing to the front the talent and just the sheer talent that there is in in the deepest and deepest of rural areas. I mean, I went into the gallery and I saw works from artists that are from, you know, villages in Osun State, in Ondo State, and, you know, in areas where they probably wouldn't have been able to display their works anyway. But, you know, it's her realizing that the Africanness in us, you know, is just the most beautiful thing. And, you know, looking at those works, you know, they were just simply amazing because they pay so much attention to us and, you know, who we are. And how relevant that is to everything that's happening now is just so crazy, because the entire Black Lives Matter movement, I say Africa because it's not just Nigeria. You know, there's so much violence going on everywhere in Africa, and everything stems from the amount of self-hate, you know, that we've sort of built over the years. You know, as a people, we look down on ourselves. You know, as Black people, as Africans, we almost like we look up to the white man. You know, almost like we don't value us. You know, we think that Black is inferior, and that is by no means the case. You know, it's about time that we sort of realize that we're beautiful. Like there's so much richness in our culture. There's so much, you know, so much exciting stuff about our heritage. And, you know, the earlier we start to realize that, I think that is really what's going to help us to move forward. Even politically, you know, ideology wise, I feel like that one president, if we get that person, that one person that pays a lot more attention to Pan-Africanism as an ideology, is that person that will be able to It's crazy. Like we don't even look at ourselves as innovative, or there's no industry. Man,
yes, and that you are 100% right. And what's also, I think, part of this conversation is what we're doing, what you're doing, what, you know, culture workers, activists, different people are doing, is reminding us that no, we don't have to tolerate that. We don't have to go, you know, in lockstep with what traditional kind of leadership is saying and the priorities that they have for us. So much of what is important about, you know, the creative endeavors or creative arts and all of that is just that reminder of our own centrality to everything, you know, putting us at the center, putting our sense of our agency, you know, our ability to rise up, our ability to change the course of history, not relying on other people out there to do something for us. The fact of the matter is, no one is coming to save us. You know, and I think that's what people realized on the global stage when they watched and saw what was happening in Nigeria. You know, a lot of people didn't know around the world how violent the situation has been, and the kind of impoverishments and all of that. People didn't really know that in the kind of way that they know now. And I think what was startling and alarming to folks in the diaspora who might not have direct contact with Nigeria or other countries across Africa is that they thought it was, you know, they thought things were better off. They thought this is the one place we should be safe. This is the one place we should be good. But the fact is, no, we aren't. We, in so many ways around the world, because, you know, white supremacy is an ideology that is carried out whether you're Black or you're white or you're brown. It is happening whether we like it or not. And so it's going to take concerted effort to say, no, we actually have pride in ourselves. We're not going to adopt these ideologies. We're going to value Black life, African life, you know, no matter where people of African descent reside, we will value us. And not only as individuals, but we're going to challenge our society to have laws and policies and practices that show us, that celebrate us, that allow us to thrive. Gosh, we've been fighting against the legacy of colonialism and really the ways in which neocolonialism is occurring right now. And quite honestly, I think, and I believe, and I know that it's incumbent on all of us to do the work of uprooting those tentacles and those values that have been given to us over generation upon generation and have now been made into law, now are made into common practice. It's adopted, it seems like it's natural, but it's not. It's really not. And so we also have to be intentional about prioritizing ourselves. We have to be intentional about prioritizing, a culture, our other ways of being and doing. And, I think art is a really profound invitation into that imaginative space of what else could be. And we need that. We have to unlock, we have to unlock that. And when we organize, when we come together in community, then we are able to work together to materialize what's been in our imagination, what's stirred up in our hearts, what's stirred up in our spirit.
Yeah, and I'll tell you how deep rooted it is. I'll make the easiest example for anyone to grasp is religion. Religion, as we practice it right now, Christianity, Islam, is a product of colonialism. Of course, the white man brought it to us, and they told us, this is Christianity, practice it in this manner, blah blah blah. And the way that we practice Christianity now, we're more Catholic than the Pope, in the sense that we have carried it in our head. And even the white man that brought it to us doesn't even practice it in the way that we do. And now, because of Christianity, I'm using Christianity as an example. Islam is equally like that. But because of that, we're so Christian that we now refer to our traditional gods, the gods that our forefathers used to worship. We now refer to them as idols, as evil spirits. We refer to them as, we say, oh, don't worship idols. My last name is Falana. I'll tell you that the full thing is Ifalana, and that means Ifa paved the way for us. Now, my ancestors used to worship a god called Ifa. Being Yoruba is not just a tribe. Being Yoruba is a religion. Being Yoruba is a lot bigger than just a tribe. We have an entire theory of human existence, how we came to being. There are gods within the Yoruba ethnicity. There are gods that we used to worship traditionally. But as soon as Christianity came, we threw all these gods away. We demonized them. It's crazy, man. It's really crazy. And now if you say to anyone that, oh, I worship Ifa, they'll run away from you. They'll run away from you that, you are evil. Eh? Don't do jazz for me, please. But what is all that? What is all this nonsense? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. The sooner we start to realize that we need to appreciate who we are, the better for us. We need to look inwards. We need to if you don't know who you are, if you don't appreciate yourself, how do you expect another race to appreciate you?
Thank you, Falz. I think the number of times I've heard we and our in the last 10 minutes makes me want to ask you, Opal, about your new platform, Diaspora Rising, which both you and Falz had a conversation as part of the second episode, I believe. I'd love to hear about what inspired you to found that platform and what you hope the platform can achieve.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm just like, this conversation is so good. It's just flowing. And yes, Diaspora Rising is a new platform we co-founded just this year, really building off of the work that we've been able to do with Black Lives Matter. My desire with Diaspora Rising, and I'll just say this, it's really a media and advocacy hub. And it's a vehicle for those of us in the diaspora, not just in the US or just in Europe, but really across, wherever we are dispersed around the world. So, we're building with folks in Brazil, in Colombia, in France, we're all over, people of African descent are literally all over. And we have power, we have power. There's a lot of stuff going on, but we also have power when we're organized, right? There might be some who have the money and the resources, but we are the majority. Black people, people of color, people of conscience, people who know that, another way is possible, we are the majority. And so Diaspora Rising is really a vehicle to unlock that sense of who we are in a very material way. We want to be engaged in transnational solidarity because we know that our destinies are intertwined. We essentially have this, we believe in this Ubuntu kind of way of being, that philosophy. I am because you are, you are because I am. And as a result, for better or for worse, you go left, or I'm eventually going to go left. If you go right, I'm eventually. So, what's happening in the US is happening in Nigeria in various ways, or it might look a little bit differently. But yes, we do see police killing people in the street here. We do see our government hoarding resources that were intended for working class people, poor people. Similar thing that's happening in Nigeria. It's no different. And so our belief is that if we can understand, the root causes of the challenges of our day, if we can organize and get together, strategize, that we can see true wins for all of us, not only the diaspora, but those of us who are in Africa as well. And so, Diaspora Rising was founded with that belief. And we really had to get moving once we saw folks with the NSARS movement moving. We were like, okay, we were gonna really do our strong, big launch in 2021. But you know how it is. There's never really a perfect time or a perfect way. And while I try to have things all together, usually I'm like, okay, you know what? Folks are moving, we move. we need to go too. We're not gonna wait and have everything. Yes, we're not gonna have everything. And the fact is, they're killing us now. The violence, I'm telling you, the degradation, the devaluation of our lives is happening now. And so the time to rise up is now. And that is what we're doing with the Diaspora Rising platform. And we're, it's emergent. We're building it out with a lot of people across the world. And it's been, incredible. And one of the main pieces that we're doing is really this media piece, because what we're finding is that we may not have these types of spaces where we can speak unfiltered without just the little sound bites, but we need to go deeper, and we need to have those conversations where we get to share amongst ourselves and not worry about other gazes and other people who are looking at us or whatever. We believe that we have the power. We know that we have the power, and that the ways in which we even organized with Black Lives Matter was first and foremost prioritizing our voices, our concerns first, making sure that we were convening first. And then we said, okay, now other people come in. But first and foremost, it's about us engaging one another, ensuring that we know that we are empowered. We have the power anyways, but really reminding ourselves of that, reminding ourselves of our birthrights, right? Dignity, respect, love, the ability to thrive. No one is better than another just because they're born in a different part of the country or born to a different family. So we really want to just remind ourselves of that, but then also begin to collaborate. We know at the end of the day, we're stronger together. And so we're really building a vehicle for sustained mutual solidarity, mutual learning. And we believe that we'll win if we engage in this way.
Thank you so much, Opal. And I would love to kind of take your cue and speak a bit more about collaboration and the role of collaboration in creating content for both of you. I mean, Falz, you jump from music to acting. You've also been featured at one of the major contemporary art institutions, Palais de Tokyo. Can you talk about the role of collaboration in what you do and how it informs how you package the content you share with your audience?
I think collaborations are huge. I think collaborations are a huge part of creating art. That for one, that's why I reached out to Mr. Lemi Ghariokwu, for example, when I was working on the Moral Instruction Project, because, he's a different kind of artist, to me, but I realized that marriage excuse me, that marriage of two different kinds of art, but still sort of sending the same message was priceless. You know, on records that I've worked on, you know, I've featured artists that have completely different styles, and you know, but then that fusion, that contrast, you know, most of the time is the beauty in the art. You know, the fact that this person is doing his art this way, this person is doing his art in another way, but then they both come together to work on something. You know, it's usually beautiful. I 100% love collaborations, and you know, I would always continue to collaborate with, you know, different kinds of artists. Really, yeah.
Can I speak on that point really quickly? Because
yeah,
that's so much so what I believe, and I think even as I think about my work in social movements, so much of it is that collaboration. And what's important is that we recognize that different people have different gifts, and tapping into those gifts only makes us stronger, more powerful, not, you know, prioritizing one voices over the other, but really saying, like, what is the knowledge that you bear? What is the gifting, the talents that are in your heart that God endowed you with, that you can bring to bear for our collective good? And that to me is just so central to how we can have success. But what I find to be, you know, I'll be honest, because it's not all hunky dory and like amazing all the time. Like, collaboration can be challenging. You know, holding meetings for diverse constituencies and all of that can be very challenging. However, I do think one of the ways that we have success is when we are able to acknowledge the diversity of voices even within. We're able to acknowledge and appreciate the different roles that people play, because not everybody is going to have the mic, not everybody is going to be in front of the camera. Some people are working behind the scenes, but we have to begin to embrace the various types of contributions that people are making, because the fact is we need it all. We don't need just music. We don't need just, you know, painting. We need all types of contributions along this road to real liberation, to real freedom, to real justice, capital J justice. And it's going to take these different ways of contributing to this larger struggle. So I just, you know, I wanted to say that because I think, you know, I believe in collaboration, but I know it's not easy, but I'm one of those people who's like, no matter what, I know we can't get there without each other. So let's do the hard work, but also let's also appreciate the people who play roles that might not be getting the mic and the visibility. And there are also people who don't care for that, right? And so it's like, but we also need to make those ways of being just as valid, and you know, they matter too.
Thank you so much, Opal. I also wanted to, I know you have to go soon, unfortunately, but I also wanted to ask you about your recent collaboration with For Freedoms, a platform co-founded by Hank Willis Thomas. It was nice to see you described as an artist there. I would love to hear you tell us a bit about that project and your experience executing it.
So the collaboration with For Freedoms, you know, Hank and the entire crew over there was phenomenal. And so essentially they asked many different artists and different people who had to work to create a billboard that could be on display somewhere in the US. And when they asked me, I immediately said yes, and you know, let's do it, thank you. And I was able to work with some designers, some photographers contributing to work. And I knew what I wanted to say. Like it kind of came somewhat naturally. And you know, for folks who might have seen the billboard or who might not have seen the billboard, it says, you know, people of conscience and courage are everywhere. And then, you know, I asked some friends, both in Nigeria as well as in the US, to offer some artwork, some photos that they took at some protests. And so there's, you know, somebody with a mask that says Sorosoke, somebody who is holding an NSARS banner. There's these images that were both from Nigeria as well as I think New York was this main image. And we basically created a bit of like a collage, and now it's on display in Georgia and Atlanta. And like I said, the words I knew intrinsically, because that's one of my root, you know, that's one of my core beliefs, that we are everywhere. Like one of the privileges that I have in this world is that of my passport. I'll be really honest, and I've been able to go and travel and meet with different peoples and a lot of different comrades on the continent. And that to me is something that I do, not just like, oh, I'm traveling, but it's like, no, this is my duty to meet human rights activists in these different parts. And so as a result of knowing and seeing and meeting people around the world, I'm like, we're everywhere. There are so many courageous people in every corner of this planet. And it's amazing and it's inspiring. But what is also happening is that we are being repressed, we are being suppressed, we are getting attacked. And what I want to continue to remind us, despite all of the challenges, despite the repression, is that we exist, right? Because sometimes you feel like it's an isolated struggle, or you feel lonely, and like, am I the only one who thinks this is wrong or bad or whatever? And my hope is that when people see that billboard, that they'll know that they're not alone, that they're in this really beautiful community of righteous struggle. No matter where you live, there's always something going on that we probably have to change. And so that billboard is really just kind of an homage and a celebration of resistors, of protesters, people who have the audacity to speak out. I love us. And so I think there's something really powerful and important about celebrating people who are courageous, who have a conscience, who make it known in a public way. And I wanted to just give us a little of an encouragement. So that was that collaboration with Four Freedoms. But I'll just say, because I know I do have to jet soon, I've been collaborating with artists over the years, and one of the things that I'm most proud of is back in about, I think, 2014, on Black History Month in February in the US, I worked with a number of artists, and I commissioned artists using the Black Lives platform, commissioned about 20 plus artists to make posters and be part of a Black Lives Matter poster campaign for every day of the month. So 28 days, 28 posters. And then we released these posters with different issues, right? So from housing to employment to education to AIDS to LGBTQ, like we were just releasing posters with different themes about racial justice, about Black life, and reminding people that although police brutality oftentimes catalyzes our movements, the fact is we are also talking about other issues that kind of precede that type of violence, that public display of aggression by the police. We're talking about poverty, we're talking about the ways in which we're disenfranchised in schools, we're talking about the job issue. So the poster campaign was just to really elaborate on what we mean when we say Black Lives Matter. It's not just about police brutality, it's about every sector and sphere of our lives. We need justice, we need equity, we need to be respected, and we need to thrive. And so unless we address those other spheres, we will likely find ourselves in these types of conversations. And so the poster campaign is one of the things that I really love collaborating with so many different artists. And then we also paired those posters with op-eds, and we did a whole series in the Huffington Post, and we continue it the following year. And we've always done some kind of iteration of that, not in the same exact way, but over the years what we've done is just so that different artists collaborated, and it's just who we are. So like I said, artists and activists are pretty much the same. It's about the imagination, it's about changing our sense of ourselves and inviting people into another way of seeing and feeling.
Thank you so much, Opal. Thank you so much for your time. It's so wonderful to have you with us here this evening. And thankfully, Mr. Lemi Ghariokwu has been able to connect. I believe he's on audio with us.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Great, great, great.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Mr. Ghariokwu. We'd love to hop right in. I would love to segue into a conversation about what an evolved Nigeria and an evolved diaspora can look like. I would love, Opal, if you could speak to that briefly for just 30 seconds before you have to leave us, that would be wonderful. And then Mr. Ghariokwu, I'd love for you and Falz to also weigh in on what an evolved diaspora and an evolved Nigeria could look like.
Okay.
Yes. I'll give just my 30 seconds still. You know, to me, it's really about taking hold of our birthright. We have a place where we belong. We have a place, we have history, we have roots, and it's really just maturing and acknowledging both our history, but also the current context that we're in. And to me, it's beyond just the cultural celebrations, which are so important, you know, but it's really about also the political, you know, it's about the strength, it's about the justice. And if we, you know, if we're only thinking that it's about, you know, getting a particular kind of job or in a corporate space and that's it, I think we're missing it. And, you know, I'll just say this as I close, like, I am completely grateful to my parents who always thought I was going to be a lawyer in the more traditional way. And I always thought I'd be a lawyer, but not in the traditional way. It was going to be like human rights law. It was always kind of that. But, you know, as I found community organizing, as I found other ways of, you know, essentially coming to the same goals, right? So the same sense of purpose, I am grateful that they were not pushing me in the same ways that I know a lot of my peers, where their family members might say, no, you must be an engineer, no, you must be a doctor. But it's amazing to see that there is a generation of human rights advocates, of activists, of people who know that no matter what your profession is, that you have a duty to speak up. And that to me is like the most important thing that people can know. Like, it doesn't matter if you're paid to do this or not paid to do that. Like, it doesn't matter. You are a human being. And I believe that an evolved diaspora also knows that. It's not just about your remittance check, right? It's not just about the money you can send or about charity, but it's about justice. And we're looking at changing power, right? Changing the dynamics of power, where people, everyday people, the grassroots are the ones who make the decisions and who are engaged in their democracy and are able to transform the way society operates, so that we have access to the resources that we need and we deserve. And you know, we're the ones who do the labor, we're the ones who are contributing. So we should be able to access that power. We should have resources distributed in a fair way. We shouldn't have the levels of poverty and the types of violence that we're experiencing. And so to me, an evolved diaspora is a diaspora that knows that it's not just charity, but it's about real justice, and that all of us have a moral duty, an obligation to be involved in our social movements, both back home, but also wherever we are rooted in this moment in the diaspora. It's important that we rise up there as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I do have to go, but I really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, Falz, you're on mute. Are you?
Thank you, Opal. I said I love your earrings, Opal.
She's gone.
Oh, she's gone. Okay, she's gone. That's okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. Hello.
Yes,
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
So would you like to respond next on what you feel an evolved Nigeria and diaspora could look like? Because as an artist, activist, you've done a lot of research as well as art production around injustice, not just within Nigeria, but from a global perspective.
So the question is, what I feel like what?
Oh, this was I was actually speaking about to Mr. Ghariokwu.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, an evolved diaspora.
Yes. So
yeah, okay. When we talk diaspora, I think we need to be specific. African diaspora. You know, the kind of movement that people of African descent, you know, have been involved with through the centuries. So Africans in America, Africans in the Caribbean, Africans everywhere in Europe, then Africans in Africa. So that's the kind of evolved diaspora that I'm seeing. And I think that is quite a very laudable idea. It has to happen because we are virtually the only race on the face of earth today that don't have synergy within themselves. We don't love ourselves because of colonialism, because of the brainwash we've been through. I just listened to Falz earlier on, talking about, you know, the way we frown at our own tradition, religion, culture. We are so eager to embrace anything foreign. Every other culture we want to learn by hook and crook. And we feel so ashamed of ourselves, which is not supposed to be. Human beings, real human beings should not be in this position that we are in. We've been here for so long, too long. It's been 5 centuries from physical slavery to mental slavery, colonialism, neocolonialism, and now it's self-colonization that is going on. All the rulers in Africa are behaving worse than the colonialists. And these are brothers, you know, kits and kings. So an involved diaspora is very, very important, and collaborations very, very vital. I love what I listened to. I could not join because my video connection had an issue, but it's all good. If I have 2 minutes, I'll say my bit. Okay, now let's talk about the role that we have to play. We have a lot of work to do. We have to break the chains of mental slavery. It's very important. So our miseducation system, I call it miseducation system, because this education system that we have is not proper education. It's been laid down by the colonialists. It's a miseducation for servitude. It was an educational system set up to make good slaves. And Africans have succeeded in being good slaves everywhere, which is a big shame. It's so embarrassing for a race as great as this. So right now, I feel so excited because the youth in Nigeria are woke, and I want to be part of it. I met Falz about 2 years ago. He sought me out. He had this project, Moral Instruction. And he came to my studio and I spoke to him and he was listening. He listened for like 1 hour because I can talk. When I want to talk, I can talk. Yeah, I talk a lot of sense. I'm a Pan-Africanist, born and raised as a Pan-Africanist. So I will live and die a Pan-Africanist. I'm not among those people who want to run away from their problems. That's one of the problems that we have as Africans. We are the only race that look for an easy escape from our problems. A proper human being will face their problems squarely. So Nigeria has problem right now. We are Nigerians. We have to face it squarely. How can the worst of us be allowed to keep on ruining the best of us? It's not right. So the youth are woke, which is a beautiful thing. A couple of years back, I was feeling very depressed about the young people. I felt like this shaku-shaku business is too much. You can't be doing 100% shaku-shaku because every creative has a role to play in the society, to move the society forward. I will just throw in a quote by Ken Saro-Wiwa. Ken Saro-Wiwa's 25th anniversary was on November 14. You know, I am always involved with things like that because I love the revolutionaries. I work with revolutionaries because they have the energy. Like Tometi mentioned, the people of courage, people of conscience are everywhere. We have millions of them in Nigeria. We need to stand up. We need to sorosoke. We cannot be muting. So it's about time. You see what Keru said about the role of the creative. He said, the writer cannot be a mere storyteller. He cannot be a mere teacher. He cannot merely x-ray society's weaknesses, its ills, its perils. He or she must be actively involved, shaping its present and its future. Ken Saro-Wiwa, that was in 1994. So that is the role everyone has to play. Everyone has a role. You are a writer, you are a musician, you are an artist, you are an architect. We all have to put our hands together. We have to build this nation. We just have to do that. We don't have any option because the universe placed us here. Religious people, maybe they call it God or whatever. Me, I call it universe. We are here for a purpose. So you see, someone like Folarin Falana, Falz, you saw what he said this evening. I felt so happy, even though I was trying to feel sad because I couldn't join, but now I have my opportunity. So I'm happy. Falz, more big ups. Keep on doing what you're doing. You know what you are doing. Yes, I love people like you because you are partly like me in a way. I call people like you and me intelligent diplomats.
Yes, sir.
That's the best way to go. That's why I say I'm not a revolutionary, I'm an evolutionary. A few weeks back, when the NSAS movement started, I jumped. I was watching day 1, day 2, day 3, and I said, is this Nigeria? I became doubly proud. I said, yes, I'm proud to be a Nigerian all over again, because these young people are doing things well. I know one or two of, those very active young people, and the movement was so coordinated. It was a peaceful protest, beautifully coordinated. The coordination amazed me so much, because I've seen a lot through my years. In the 70s, I was a member of the Young African Pioneers, YAP. That was the political youth movement of Kalakuta Republic. So we did our own little thing. Those days, just, just few of us like that, my own role is always, I put it visually. And we succeeded to an extent. But to a greater extent, that foundation had been laid. And from the music of no less a personage like Fela Anikulapo Kuti, you can see all the young people today have that influence from the powerful music and the message that Fela laid down. So it's yielding, the seed is growing into fruit, and Nigeria will be fruitful soon, because the light has come. Darkness must make way when the light arrives. So we have to keep on moving. And I love it when the young people say, we move. Me too, I say, yes, we move. I did on the back. I did can't be. Yes, so true. Collaboration, any of you call me. Unfortunately, I couldn't speak to Tometi. Yeah, I love what she's doing. I've read a few things about her, and I listened to some bits of her speech tonight. Lovely, lovely. I feel very proud. And we must know that words are magic. Words are powerful. In African tradition, words are important. Names are important. Names with meanings. Falz mentioned his name, his surname, Falana, Ifalano. Why should we be ashamed of our own culture and tradition? Why? The Indian, have you seen Indian say that Jesus he won't follow die? Eh? Have you seen Japanese say that? It's only us. And all the people who are doing their own tradition, worshiping their own gods, and practicing their own religion, they are making progress. Check it out. We are worshiping other people's gods. They worship the one for Saudi Arabia, the one for Jerusalem. Before a father answer other children, he will answer his own children first to make Africa open eye. I was speaking with Peter Tosh, the reggae maestro Peter Tosh, in 1982. I said to Peter, Peter, how soon do you think Africa will be free? And Peter Tosh said to me, he said, not a microbe of a second until Jah prescribed. He said, because Africans worship foreign gods. He said, so Jah not happy with Africa. We have to set ourselves free. I said, okay, Peter. I said, that's true. So we have to keep moving. We join forces with all the progressives. We all have a role to play in our own little corners and crannies. We must not give up. We must not let darkness continue. This nation has to move forward. And it's very laudable what Artex is doing, because these are examples of what young people can do to bring up a nation. Artex program is known globally. It's highly respected, and it's very, very organized, very professional. It's very ungovernment-like. You understand? So happy to be here, happy to have this opportunity, because yes. Falz, let me hear you, man.
Yes, when will we know the evolution has started, Falz? What will be the signs that we will see? That was the question I put.
Say that again, when we will know what?
That we've begun to evolve as a nation, as a people, both in Nigeria and the diaspora.
I think it's pretty simple. When we start to pretty much, one point is what Mr. Lemi just said, but I'll start with one before I go to that. The first thing I'll say is when we start to think communally, when we start to think of ourselves together rather than individually, because of the way everything is scattered right now, because of the way that they've made poverty, you know, the order of the day, you know, because of the way people are so deeply dissatisfied with the state of affairs. Now everyone has sort of been pushed to the edge, and the spirit that is flowing around now is one of selfishness. You know, everyone is self-centered. No one cares about the next man. Who cares? Everybody's trying to make it on their own, and that's why the mentality in Lagos is this man trying to outsmart the next man. You know, that's like the Lagos mentality. Everyone's always trying to outsmart each other. But why do we like? What are we competing for? Like, we're together. We're a team. Why are you fighting me? You know, so it's crazy, man. Once we start to really consider, and it's pretty simple. All you have to be is just humane. You know, just find that humane emotion in you, and just think about the next man. You know, for the man, even for the big man that's trying to gather all the wealth. You know, maybe he's dealing oil, for example, and you know, in his mind he's thinking, if there is 24-hour electricity, then he wouldn't be able to sell that petroleum product, because people need that for their generators. But why don't you look at the greater good? Is it not better for everybody to have light? Why are you so self-centered? Why are you concerned only about your pocket? You know, it's really crazy, man, and it's really sad and depressing to think about, like, how deep this rot has become. And until we start to think of everyone else as well. You don't even have to put everyone before yourself. Just think of them as well. The moment people just think of only themselves, you know, that I think that will be a sign. The second thing was what Mr. Lemi said, and what I had also said earlier on. Once we start to appreciate who we are, and we start to uphold that, I think that is the beginning of our freedom. That is right now we're still, like Mr. Lemi said, we're still, even though we're not physically enslaved, we're still mentally enslaved, because we're still inside the shackles of colonialism. And it's, you know, I think I saw someone type that earlier on. Some of this is imbibed in the education system. You know, what they teach in the schools. You know, it's crazy, man. I just remembered sometimes, you know, I just think back to like school days, and I just remember how it was like almost embarrassing to like speak in your own native language in school, or in like any sort of social gathering, because it's looked down on. You know, you have to speak English, or almost you have to speak with phone. Like, it's a bit crazy, man. It's and I think just once we start to really recognize who we are, and start to appreciate who we are, and embrace who we are, and art plays a big part in that. You know, thankfully, I'm really excited. This year I was able to set up my film production company, and one of the big things I really intend to do with that is really push art culture with like film and you know, other film related works. And you know, because during the lockdown, I think that was when it really dawned on me, because I was watching a lot of Netflix. And while I'm watching Netflix, I'm watching a lot of foreign stuff. You know, I'm watching shows from America. I'm watching shows. In fact, to be honest with you, Hollywood is not even popping anymore. I'm watching shows from Spain. I'm watching shows from Turkey. I'm watching shows from Korea. And one thing is constant in all these either movies or series. They're speaking their language. They're pushing their culture. They're everything. Like from watching Money Heist, for example, La Casa de Papel, I almost know how to speak Spanish just by watching, because they're so inside their culture. They're so inside what they're about, you know, in the show, in the storytelling. But you know, with us, I find that we don't even embrace something as basic as language, for example, enough. You know, and we're almost trying to speak English a bit too much, and like we need to be more in touch with ourselves, tell our own stories that are real and peculiar to us, Because for someone that is in the United States, for someone that is in Norway, any random country, and they're watching something that's Nigerian, what is going to hold them, what is going to capture them, is them seeing something that is peculiar to us, something that they've never really seen before, or they find so distinct and so distinctly Nigerian. And that is what we really need to realize. And like I said, it's still back to the same point of realizing who we are and appreciating that.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Falz. And Mr. Ghariokwu for those.
I'm so happy tonight. I'm just looking at Falz. I just love this guy, man. Nice.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lemi.
I want to use this opportunity to throw this out. I've thrown it at Falz before, but yeah. I wish he would be one to take it seriously too, so he can pass it on to the young people like him. Like I said earlier on, traditionally, culturally, metaphysically, words are very powerful. Words are very important. So names are very, very powerful. So you have to be conscious of what you call yourself. So we are Africans as a race. We are not black. There is no race that is called by color. So I don't subscribe. I will never subscribe to being called a black man or a black race. All those are terminologies that they use to brainwash us, because they are talking about good and evil, black and white. We don't call the Chinese yellow. We don't call the Indians red either. But we allow ourselves to be called black. That is wrong. We are African. Anywhere you are in this world, if you are a black man, you are an African. If you're a black woman, you are an African. So I need to throw that out there. We are Africans. And for me, a mentally liberated human being, African, I call myself, that's the expression of relief. Then freedom. Then I can be who I was made to be. I cannot feel inferior to any human being. So I'm an free can. So weigh those words. Yes, we need to have that in our psyche. We should become free cans. So we set ourselves free from mental slavery. Colonial mentality has to go. Then another thing, that word nigger, it has to stop. It's a very derogatory term. There's no way, you cannot polish it. Rather than being a nigger, when you check Yoruba folklore, the japa, the turtle, is the wisest animal, no matter that it's not the biggest. And what is the turtle? The ninja turtle. So you can replace that rubbish word nigger with ninja. So it's better to be a Nigerian ninja than a Nigerian nigger. So young people, please, that terminology is derogatory. It's not good for the psyche. We will not get out of this colonial mentality. It belittles our integrity. And integrity is not learned in school. Virtue is not learned in school. Principle is not learned in school. Ideology is not learned in school. Wisdom is not in school. I mean formal school. Because for Africans, formal school, formal education is all bull. It's been so effective keeping us down. Look at our women. 90% or more of them are not satisfied with how God created them. And they call God every minute. They want to be Brazilian hair, Peruvian hair, Chinese hair. I've not seen a Chinese with Afro hair. The Chinese, with all their technology, they didn't bother to make Afro wig and put it on. How would they look like? The Indian to have Afro wig on their head. So we have to check ourselves. All these little things matter. It matters a lot, because our children grow up seeing our image. They grow up feeling inferior. So it's important that we start to correct all this. And that's what's gotten even up to governance level. That's why we are not moving forward. Nigeria cannot have constant electricity 60 years after independence. That's a big shame. We are not talking about infrastructure now. Everything is deteriorating per minute. And all our resources, all the money that this country make, where is the money? They are banked away in Switzerland and all over the place. And we are very happy, eager to go spend billions of naira in Dubai. We don't feel ashamed. Dubai used the same oil money that Nigeria has made, and we cannot even see today. They use it to set up that Dubai. So we have to check ourselves. It's very important. And all this church and mosque business every day, has it helped this nation? Has it made us purer? Are we more loving? Like Falz was just explaining now. We are so selfish, so self-centered. We think of ourselves. That is Kolo mentality. That is not African tradition at all. Africans lived communal life. Even the little thread of our tradition that remains, people still frown at it today. Because your family can call you anytime. Come and help me out. It looks like it's absurd. But that's our tradition. Now we want to be me and me alone, me and my family alone. Then you get into a position where you are supposed to serve the people. You pack all the money that you cannot even finish in 5 generations. Isn't that madness? So we need to check ourselves. It's about time. It's about time that everybody be woke in the proper way, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ghariokwu. I have just one question. We got quite a few questions, but I'm just going to pose one because we've run over and I want to respect both of your time. So this question is from Towela Kams, who's the co-founder of an initiative dubbed Creative Connect Botswana. Part of their mission is to inspire creative artists towards taking the first step towards being bold about advocacy and using their work to that effect. I'd be keen to know what you could say to them in regards to getting started.
Okay, can I start off? Okay, the greatest injunction, because I was a student of metaphysics too, is know thyself. That's the greatest. That's the foundation of knowledge for any human being. If you can know who you are, your calling eventually, maybe talent-wise, your passion, then the next thing is you hone that skill, you practice, and you start to build it up. It becomes a brand, and eventually you can monetize it. So if you know thyself, you should know love. You should know compassion. When you know love, you know compassion. You have integrity. You are principled. Knowing oneself is deep. It's not religion. It's not religion. It's not this religiosity that we are touting all over the place. So when you are able to locate that, the still small voice within you, your spirit, you listen to guidance. So you find your role on earth. No role is inferior nor superior. Every role is important. So if you eventually find your role as an advocate, yes, go full steam ahead and be an advocate. Everybody cannot be advocates. There are different roles cut out for each human being. So what I preach, what I practice is know thyself and follow your heart and follow your head and your soul. So you can be who you are supposed to be. So you don't need to be inferior to anybody. If you know yourself, you know about destiny. There is no competition in manifest destiny. So you will be comported in your own role. You will be comfortable in your own shoes and you'll be contented. So that's philosophically how I answer that question.
Thank you very much.
Or how I give the advice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ghariokwu. And to close, Falz, do you have any advice for this organization who's trying to inspire artists to be bold about advocacy and using their work to that effect?
Yeah, I'll just align with what Mr. Lemi has said. And, I think that pretty much sums up this entire discussion. Just knowing your own self and being true to yourself. And, it's exactly what we've been saying since the very beginning, as Africans. You know, I love what Mr. Lemi said about free can. I never really thought about it like that. You know, I think, you know, it's important that we know who we are and what we ought to be. And, you know, we continue to act in that manner. And, you know, everything that we do, everything that we create, you know, everyone that we speak to, you know, in whatever sort of social setting we find ourselves, you know, we continue to channel that to the next person and to the next person and to the next person, you know, because that is the only way that we can really unlearn, you know, and learn the proper things that we need to really. Yeah.
Thank you so much to both of you for joining us this evening and staying with us.
No problem.
Thank you, Tayo. I'm just seeing your face now, so I can recognize you. Thank you so much, my sister.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much to both of you, and thank you to all.
Thank you, Falz.
On a lighter note, Mr. Lemi mentioned about the Peruvian hair and Brazilian hair. I thought that was hilarious. I never really thought about it from that angle, but that's a very interesting thing to think about.
Thank you, Falz. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Take good care, everyone. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tayo. Okay. Bye-bye.